I should have walked away the moment my fiancé smiled at his mother instead of me. Instead, I stood there in a white wedding dress worth $6,000 while more than 300 guests applauded the speech that destroyed my future. My name is Linda Morgan. I was 32 years old on the day I learned that sometimes the person who betrays you does not hide behind lies. Sometimes he announces it with a microphone in his hand and expects everyone to celebrate. The ballroom was glowing with crystal lights. Soft music floated through the air while waiters carried expensive champagne between tables covered in white roses. Everything looked perfect, until Ethan picked up the microphone. He squeezed my hand for a second before letting go. His eyes drifted toward the front row where his mother Gloria sat wearing a silver dress that looked more appropriate for a queen than the mother of the groom. He smiled at her. Then he cleared his throat. Before we continue this wonderful evening, I have an important announcement. I have decided to transfer every property under my name to my mother. On top of that, I will personally provide her with $8,000 every month for the rest of her life, because no one deserves it more. The room exploded into applause. Someone shouted that he was an amazing son. Another guest wiped away tears. My own parents stared at each other in complete confusion. I remained frozen, not because he wanted to support his mother, but because we had spent the last 2 years planning our future around those same assets. The apartment downtown, the vacation cabin by the lake, the investment account we were supposed to build together. Everything. He had just erased me from the equation without discussing a single word. Gloria stood gracefully and accepted the applause with a proud smile. She looked directly at me. There was victory in her eyes, as if she had been waiting for this moment all along. Ethan lowered the microphone and whispered to me. "You understand, right?" I slowly turned toward him. "Did you ask me before making this decision?" He laughed softly. "There was nothing to ask. You know, family comes first." I looked around the room. Hundreds of strangers believed they were witnessing a touching tribute between a loving son and his devoted mother. Only I knew that my family had contributed $120,000 toward the down payment of our home 6 months earlier. Only I knew that every financial plan we had built together depended on shared ownership. Only I knew that Ethan had promised me countless times that everything would belong equally to both of us. Now those promises had disappeared in less than 60 seconds. The wedding host invited us to continue with the ceremony. The pianist started another romantic melody. The officiant smiled politely. I reached for my engagement ring. For one brief second, Ethan looked nervous. "Linda, what are you doing?" I slid the ring off my finger. Every sound inside the ballroom seemed to disappear. Even the musicians stopped playing. I placed the ring carefully on the nearest table beside a glass of untouched champagne. Then I picked up the microphone from Ethan's hand. "If your mother is the woman who deserves everything in your life, then perhaps she should be standing here instead of me." Gasps echoed across the room. Several guests covered their mouths. Someone dropped a wine glass. Gloria stepped forward immediately. "How dare you embarrass my son on his wedding day?" I looked directly at her. "No, Mrs. Cole. He embarrassed himself. I simply refuse to pretend that betrayal is romance." Ethan reached for my arm. "Linda, calm down. People are watching." I smiled for the first time that evening. "Exactly. Now they can see who you really are." I turned toward the audience. "Since everyone here deserves honesty, let me share one more detail. My parents invested $120,000 into the property that Ethan has just publicly transferred away from our future together." Silence. Absolute silence. The applause that had filled the room only moments earlier vanished completely. Guests began whispering. Several people looked back and forth between Ethan and Gloria. One elderly man stood up from his chair. "Did the bride know about this announcement?" Ethan hesitated. "Well, not exactly." Another woman frowned. "So you made a financial decision involving shared assets without informing your future wife?" Gloria interrupted before Ethan could answer. "A son should never have to explain himself when taking care of his own mother." My father finally stood. His voice remained calm, but every word landed like a hammer. "Taking care of your mother is honorable. Taking someone else's money while pretending to build a marriage is fraud." For the first time that night, Gloria lost her confident expression. The cameras that had been recording the wedding shifted away from the decorated stage and focused entirely on our families. Guests pulled out their phones. Videos started spreading before the ceremony had even officially ended. I picked up the small bouquet resting beside my chair. For months, I had dreamed of throwing it toward my friends. Instead, I placed it gently into the hands of a little girl standing near the aisle. She looked up at me with innocent eyes. "You can have this. I hope when you grow up you marry someone who chooses you first." Without another word, I walked toward the exit. Behind me, Ethan called my name again and again. But I never looked back, because deep inside, I already knew the wedding I had just left behind was not the greatest loss of my life. Staying would have been. The cold night air hit my face the moment the ballroom doors closed behind me. For the first time in hours, I could breathe. My mother hurried after me, still holding the small purse she had carried to every important event in my life. "Linda, wait." She wrapped her arms around me before I could say anything. I expected questions. Instead, she whispered only 4 words. "You did the right thing." My father joined us a few seconds later. His jaw was clenched so tightly that I thought he might break a tooth. He looked back toward the hotel entrance, where voices were growing louder. "I gave that boy my trust. I should have known better." I shook my head. "No, that. He fooled all of us." A black luxury sedan stopped near the curb. It belonged to Ethan. He jumped out before the driver could even open the door. "Linda, please just listen." I kept walking. He followed. "You are making this much worse than it is." I finally turned around. "Worse than what?" "You publicly transferred everything we planned together without asking me. You embarrassed my parents after accepting their money. And somehow you think I am overreacting." He ran both hands through his hair. "You know my mother sacrificed everything for me. She deserves security." I nodded. "Then buy her a house with your own savings. Not with promises you made to your future wife." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Behind him, Gloria appeared like a storm cloud. She walked across the sidewalk in expensive heels without even looking at traffic. "Enough drama," she snapped. "Return inside and finish the ceremony. People will forget this happened." I laughed. "Forget Mrs. Cole, there are probably 50 phones uploading videos already. The internet never forgets." Her expression hardened. "Then delete them." My father stepped between us. "You should leave. Now." For a second I thought Gloria might slap him. Instead, she pointed a finger at me. "You will regret humiliating my son." I looked straight into her eyes. "No. Your son will regret choosing applause over honesty." She grabbed Ethan by the arm and pulled him toward the car. Before getting inside, she turned one last time. "Do not expect another chance." The irony almost made me smile. She still believed she held the power. She had no idea the real battle had not even begun. The next morning I woke up in my childhood bedroom. The wedding dress still hung over a chair where my mother had carefully placed it. Looking at it made my stomach twist. 24 hours earlier it represented hope. Now it felt like evidence from a crime scene. My phone buzzed nonstop. Friends, coworkers, distant relatives, even people I barely remembered from college. Every message asked the same question. Is the video real? I opened social media. The first clip already had more than 3 million views. The title read, "Bride walks out after groom gives everything to his mother." Comments flooded in every second. Some people praised my decision. Others accused me of being greedy. Most simply wanted to know what happened next. Before I could answer anyone, another call appeared. It was Rachel, my best friend. The moment I answered, she did not say hello. "Have you checked the property records?" "What do you mean?" She lowered her voice. "I work with title documents every day. Remember, something bothered me after yesterday. So I searched." My heart skipped. "And Linda, the apartment is already under Gloria's name." "You said uplights." "That is impossible. We bought it 6 months ago." Rachel took a deep breath. "It was transferred 3 weeks after closing." "Ethan never told you." For several seconds, I could not speak. My mind replayed every conversation, every promise, every plan about decorating the living room, every discussion about children. The apartment had never been ours. It had belonged to Gloria almost the entire time. Rachel continued. "There is more. The lake cabin was transferred too. When almost 2 months ago, I closed my eyes. The announcement at the wedding had not been a sudden emotional decision. It had been theater. Everything had already been arranged behind my back. My mother walked into the room carrying coffee. One look at my face told her something was wrong. What happened? I handed her the phone. She listened quietly while Rachel explained everything. When the call ended, my mother placed the cup on the nightstand without touching it. Then she said something that changed everything. Call a lawyer. Not to save the relationship. To save your future. Within an hour, we were sitting in the office of Jonathan Reed, one of the best financial attorneys in the city. He listened carefully, without interrupting. When I finished, he folded his hands. Do you have proof your family contributed $120,000? My father slid a folder across the desk. Bank transfers.
White confirmations.
Signed emails. Jonathan examined every page. Then a slow smile crossed his face.
Good.
Very good. I frowned. That is good news for your case, yes. Because these documents establish financial reliance and material representation. If Ethan accepted the money while secretly transferring ownership elsewhere, there may be legal consequences beyond a simple civil dispute. Hope flickered inside me for the first time since the wedding. Can we recover the money? Jonathan leaned back. I believe you can recover much more than that. My father looked surprised. More. Jonathan nodded. Sometimes the most expensive mistake a dishonest person makes is believing nobody will ask for receipts. At that exact moment, none of us knew that another surprise was waiting. Across town, Gloria was already preparing her own version of the story. And before sunset, she would try to convince the entire country that I had destroyed her innocent family out of pure greed. By noon, the story had escaped our city. By sunset, it belonged to the entire country. Every major social media platform carried the same headline. Bride walks away after groom gives his entire future to his mother. Millions of strangers argued over 30 seconds of video. Some called me brave. Others called me selfish. But nobody knew the truth.
Not yet.
Jonathan Reed advised me to stay silent until we gathered every document. Do not fight emotions with emotions, he warned. Fight facts with facts. So that was exactly what we did. Rachel spent the afternoon pulling every public record she could legally access. My father searched through old emails. My mother opened dusty storage boxes filled with paperwork she had carefully saved for years. By evening, our dining room table looked less like a family home and more like the headquarters of an investigation. Receipts, contracts, bank statements, printed text messages. Every page told the same story. My family had invested in my future with Ethan because they believed we were building a marriage. Meanwhile, Ethan had quietly transferred nearly everything to Gloria without ever mentioning it. Then Rachel suddenly froze. Linda, come here. She pointed at a scanned document on her laptop. Do you recognize the signature? I leaned closer. It looked almost identical to mine. Almost, but not quite. Someone had forged my initials on an internal property acknowledgement form. My stomach turned. I never signed this. Rachel nodded. I know. The date was 3 months ago. Jonathan arrived less than an hour later. The moment he saw the document, his expression changed. Where did you find this? Public filing archive. He adjusted his glasses. This could become very serious. Forgery changes everything. Instead of a simple financial disagreement, we might now be looking at intentional deception. For the first time since leaving the wedding, I saw genuine confidence in his face. He carefully organized every paper into separate folders. Do not contact Ethan. Do not answer Gloria. Let them keep talking. People who believe they are winning often make careless mistakes. His prediction proved correct faster than anyone expected. That evening, Gloria appeared on a local television interview. She sat comfortably beneath studio lights, pretending to wipe away tears. The host asked if she had anything to say to viewers. She nodded dramatically. I welcomed Linda into my family like a daughter, but all she ever cared about was money. When my son chose to honor his mother, she abandoned him in front of everyone. The interview spread online within minutes. Comments flooded in supporting her. Then Ethan posted his own statement. He claimed I had pressured him into placing assets under both our names. He insisted he had been protecting family property from an untrustworthy woman. I read every word in complete disbelief. Not because he lied, but because he lied so badly. Rachel started laughing. What is funny? She turned her laptop toward me. His post includes a photo from the apartment. Look at the wall. I stared for several seconds before understanding. The framed picture hanging behind him showed the apartment exactly as we had decorated it together. The same apartment he now claimed had always belonged only to his family. Even worse, the image accidentally revealed a handwritten calendar still pinned inside the kitchen. One note was clearly visible. Meet Linda, decorator, Tuesday. Jonathan smiled. Excellent. He just placed you inside the property after claiming you had no connection to it. The internet noticed too. Users enlarged the image. People highlighted details. Questions multiplied. If Linda never had ownership, why was she making renovation decisions? Why was her name written throughout the planning calendar? Why were her personal belongings visible everywhere? The public mood began shifting. Journalists started contacting me for interviews. I refused every request. Jonathan approved. Silence can be more powerful than argument, especially when evidence is speaking for you. 2 days later, an official demand letter arrived at Ethan's office and at Gloria's house. It required the immediate preservation of financial records.
No transfers. No deletions.
No destruction of evidence. At almost the same moment, my phone rang. The caller ID displayed Ethan. Against Jonathan's advice, I answered. His voice sounded exhausted. Linda,
Please stop this.
you are ruining everything. I closed my eyes. You ruined everything when you lied to me.
No.
You are making lawyers involved. I almost laughed. Lawyers became involved because you involved deception. There was a long silence. Then he whispered something unexpected. Mom told me you would never actually leave. I felt my heartbeat slow. What did you say? She said once we were married, you would have no choice. That eventually you would accept whatever happened. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Those words explained years of manipulation. Gloria had never respected me. She had only expected me to surrender. I asked one final question. Did you know the apartment had already been transferred before the wedding? Another silence. Longer this time. Then barely above a whisper.
Yes.
The line went dead. I stared at the dark screen. Every remaining piece of doubt disappeared. This had never been a misunderstanding. It had been a carefully planned betrayal from the very beginning. The next morning, Jonathan called before sunrise. His voice carried an excitement I had never heard before. Linda,
Do not make any plans today.
we just received information that could destroy their entire defense. Someone from Gloria's own circle has contacted our office. And according to the first message, they have recordings. Secret recordings. Of conversations that were never supposed to leave the room. Jonathan asked me to meet him at his office immediately. His voice over the phone was calm, but I could hear the excitement beneath every word. Someone wants to talk. Someone very close to Gloria. When I arrived, Rachel and my parents were already there. A woman sat alone near the window. She looked nervous enough to leave at any second. She was in her late 30s with tired eyes and neatly tied brown hair. The moment she saw me, she stood. My name is Chloe Harris. You do not know me, but I know Gloria very well. Jonathan closed the office door. Everything discussed here is confidential. Chloe nodded. I worked as Gloria's personal assistant for almost 4 years. I handled appointments, financial paperwork, private calls, everything. She reached into her handbag and carefully placed a small digital recorder on the table. I have been recording certain conversations for my own protection, in case she ever blamed me for something illegal. My father stared at the device.
Does she know about this? No.
She trusted me completely. Jonathan pressed the play button. Gloria's voice filled the room.
Clear.
Cold. Confident. Linda is too naive. Once the marriage license is signed, she will never leave. Women always complain, but they stay. Another voice asked, what if she finds out about the property transfers? Gloria laughed. Then Ethan will apologize, buy flowers, and everything will calm down. She has already invested too much to walk away. I felt every hair on my arms rise. The recording continued. Make sure Ethan announces everything during the reception. If people clap, she'll feel embarrassed and stay quiet. Public pressure works better than arguments. Rachel covered her mouth. My mother slowly sat down. Jonathan stopped the recording. Nobody spoke. Finally, he looked at Chloe.
Do you have more?
She nodded. Hours of conversations. Emails too. Printed instructions. Calendar notes. Everything. Why are you giving this to us? Chloe lowered her eyes. Because I watched her destroy too many lives. And because last week she told Ethan to blame everything on me if legal problems appeared. I realized loyalty meant nothing to her. Jonathan carefully collected every file. This changes the entire case. Not only financially, publicly, morally, legally. For the first time since the wedding, I felt something I had almost forgotten.
Peace.
Not because revenge was coming, but because the truth finally had witnesses. The following afternoon, another surprise arrived. A courier delivered flowers to my parent house. Red roses. Exactly 100. Hidden among them was a handwritten note. Linda, I know I made mistakes. Please meet me one last time.
No lawyers. No cameras.
Just us. Ethan. My mother reached for the card. Do not go. Jonathan agreed over the phone. Anything he wants to say can be said through legal counsel. But curiosity pulled at me. Not because I wanted him back. Because I wanted answers. So Jonathan arranged something different. The meeting would happen in a private restaurant room, with hidden legal observers nearby. If Ethan attempted intimidation or manipulation, there would be witnesses. That evening, I entered the reserved dining room. Ethan stood the moment I walked in. He looked older. His expensive suit was wrinkled. Dark circles surrounded his eyes. For several seconds, neither of us spoke. Then he whispered, "You look beautiful." I sat across from him. I did not come for compliments. He nodded slowly. I know. A waiter poured water and quietly left. Ethan folded his hands. Mom pushed me. She kept saying once we married, everything would settle down. She promised you would forgive us. I looked directly at him. Did she force you to sign transfer papers?
No. Did she force you to lie to me? No.
Did she force you to stand in front of 300 guests and humiliate me? He stared at the table.
No.
Then stop hiding behind her. You made your own choices. His shoulders dropped. I still love you. The sentence meant nothing. Love without respect was only another form of control. I answered quietly. The version of me that loved you stayed behind in that ballroom. You left her there.
Not me.
For the first time, tears appeared in his eyes. Can we start over? I shook my head. You cannot rebuild trust by pretending betrayal never happened. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a thick envelope. These are transfer documents. I will return everything. The apartment, the cabin, the investments. Just end the lawsuit. I did not even touch the envelope. This stopped being about property the moment forgery entered the picture. His face turned pale.
You know about that.
I stood from my chair. I know much more than you think. As I walked toward the exit, he called after me.
Mom does not know I
met you. If she finds out, she will destroy me. I paused without turning around. Then perhaps for the first time in your life, you should stop worrying about disappointing your mother. And start worrying about becoming an honest man. Outside the restaurant, Jonathan waited beside his car. One look at my expression told him everything. He smiled faintly. Did he offer a settlement?
Yes.
Did you accept?
No.
Good. Because 10 minutes ago, our investigators confirmed something important. Gloria has started moving money into overseas accounts, which means she knows the walls are closing in. And desperate people often make the biggest mistakes of all.